Hey guys, welcome back to Hook with Anime. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 7. Jailhouse Rock. Pulling up to the most infamous prison in the United States of America known as the Black Pentagon. As the guard walked up to the vehicle locked and loaded ready to blow whoever was into away, but as soon as he seen who was in it he lowered his weapon and gave the signal to let it straight through. The car then drove up to the inner gate and the back seat opened up showing on Oliva Biscuit. He was still realigned from his fight with Naruto and the consequence of doing so. But all that was behind him right now and all he wanted to do was go and see his beloved wife. As Oliva was walking down the hall a guard walked up and followed him. As they were walking Mr. Unchained asked, "Have we got any new prisoners while I was away?" The guard pulled up his clipboard and answered with, "Yes sir. Iron Michael shown up the next day after you left and one Baki Hanma shown up the same day you went to Japan. Other than them two no one of interest shown up." Oliva stopped and looked over at the guard who was sweating from Oliva's look. He then said, "Really Baki Hanma?" The guard just nodded. Oliva smiled and said, "Send that kid up to my room in a couple of hours." Oliva then walked on to his spot in the jail. It took the massive man to show up to it. He then changed clothes and grabbed some flowers he called in advance for. After which he walked to the bedroom, he stopped and straightened his bow tie and took a deep breath. After which he opened the doors to show his beautiful wife.
Maria my bello. Oliva was stopped dead in his tracks by a fucking glass ashtray slamming into his face. Oliva grabbed his face as he said, "Sweetie, why did you do that?"
She looked at her longtime husband and said, "I heard you went to Japan and stayed all week only to get beat by some cook."
The large man sighed as he knew that his wife hated his job and what he became after she got sick, but if it wasn't for this job she would have fell to her condition. Oliva sat down and said, "It's true I did and he is, but there is one thing wrong though, that cook Naruto Uzumaki is without a doubt the strongest being on this planet. He has my respect not just as a fighter but also as a man."
She was surprised as he seemed different. No reflecting on his own ego, or him trying to lie. Hell, she didn't even know he actually lost. She only known a little bit about who he was going to fight. Not just that, but his own presence seemed different as he now gave off a calming aura.
Oliva got up and said, "Well, I see I have upset you my love, I will leave you alone so you can calm down." However, before he could leave, Bay heard, "Are you big lug, just come down here and hold me for a second." Oliva turned and did as she wanted. Later on with Baki. Baki had spent an entire week in this hellhole to the point he actually was thinking about leaving this place altogether. Now though he was glad he hadn't, as he now was going to be able to fight the third strongest man in the world. If he won now, that would mean he's ready to fight his father. The guard opened up the door showing the hallway to Oliva's room, which he was shocked by the fine art and statues that littered it. The guard then told him, "This is as far as I go. Mr. Oliva made it clear he only wanted to see you and no one else." Baki looked at the guard and then the doors as he started to walk. When he got to them, he stilled himself for what comes next. Baki said, "All right, let's get this over with." He then opened the door to see a just as lavish room, and sitting by the window was none other than Oliva.
For Oliva, he couldn't believe that Baki really was in here. He was actually wondering why in the hell Baki thought it was a good idea, but regardless he got up and said, "Baki, I didn't believe it when they told me you were here, but why don't you come on in and have a drink with me?" Baki gulped and walked forward to the open seat in the room and sat down. Baki then responded with, "Oh no thanks, I'm not old enough to drink. But that's not why I'm here. I'm sure you heard I challenged my father to a fight a while back, right?" Oliva rubbed his nose as he could tell where this was going. He then put the glass down and looked Baki straight in the eyes and said, "Yeah, I have. But Baki, I guess you haven't heard, have you?" Baki looked puzzled and he knew something was going to mess up his plan. Baki then said, "No, what is it?"
Oliva took a deep breath on his cigar and in truth regretting having to tell the young fighter, even more than he usually would have than to Naruto messing with his mind. He then said, "Baki, the chance of you ever seeing Yuchiro ever again are slim to none."
Baki was confused by that, as there was no way in Yuchiro Hanma would be too scared of showing back up again just because he lost one fight. Baki then asked, "What are you talking about? There's no way Dad is in hiding."
Oliva took a drink and got another bear out and put it in the mug he had as he said, "No Baki, he's not hiding, or at least by his own choice. No. You see, when Naruto beat him, that was the first time in history he was weak and vulnerable, so they had me and Striker inject Yuchiro with a cocktail that would keep him out for days. Now he in some black ops site on ICE. And in a chemically induced coma. This hit Baki like a ton of bricks. For him to think his father Yuchiro Hanma was now completely out of the picture was unreal." Oliva sighed and finished, "Baki, I know you probably came here to challenge me as some kind of warm-up for your father, but that's a dead end. Hell, as far as I know they never did fix anything that was wrong with him either. Tell you what, Baki, I will have the word and draw up release papers, as I feel bad about this." Before anything else could be said, security came running into the room. They both looked at the guard and seen he had a broken arm and was covered in blood. "Mr. Oliva, Guevara has lost his fucking mind and is going cell block by cell block and killing everyone there."
Both Baki and Oliva jumped up at that, and the big guy yelled at they ran out, asked, "Where the hell is he now?" They heard a cell block 9 inches before they raced out of hearing distance.
Cell block 9. Cell block 9 was actually the largest cell in the Black Pentagon, or more like was as hundreds of dead bodies strung across the place. This was the site that Baki and Oliva came to, and standing in the middle was Guevara. Oliva stepped forth while Baki was trying to get a hold of himself, as this was the first time he seen some like this. Oliva then said, "Guevara, have you lost your fucking mind?" Said man turned around, and in truth it was easy to see there was something wrong with him. Guevara was a Cuban that ran his own island. He had on a dwerg and a pair of orange prison jeans. But none of that was what caught the eye. No, it was the fact his veins and eyes were black. Oliva was shocked by this. Matter of fact, it seemed familiar, almost like. Oliva shook his head. There was no time for him to think about the memories that Naruto accidentally shoved into his head. Before he could say anything, Baki walked forward and said, "Hey, you mid, if I beat his ass, I have been taking shit from this asshole all week." Guevara looked at Baki and said, "I didn't come all this way for some piss ant." Before Baki could react or even see for that matter, Guevara was on top of him, but the punch that was inches from his face was being held back by a massive hand. Baki looked behind him. It was Oliva, but there was something different, as his eyes were now yellow, and if Baki could see his back he would see the tailed beast mark was now in a yellow glowing halo. Oliva looked at Baki and said, "Baki, unless you have killed someone before, then get the hell out of the way." Baki just nodded, as he didn't even see Guevara move. Guevara then came across with a kick so powerful that it actually broke every piece of glass in the room, but it only proved to push Oliva back a little. Guevara then said, "So it is true, you did become the bitch for that kid." The bodybuilder looked surprised by this. Several people knew where he was going and even why he was going there, but no one outside of Tokugawa and Naruto knew that he gained the mark he was using right now. "Guevara, how in the hell do you know about that?" The Cuban smirked and said, "Let's say an old friend of his gave me this incredible power, that I'm now going to rip you apart with." He then charged the massive man, and with a powerful punch to the gut that Oliva was able to block, sent him through the wall that was 10 feet away from him. He then ran after the man. For Baki this was unreal. The key, the speed and the straight was almost like he was watching two Narutos fighting. He was sure that if he fought Oliva he would have lost, and Guevara would have killed him if Oliva hadn't stepped in. But some things ringed in his head. What Guevara said to Oliva, did Naruto do something to him to make Oliva be this powerful? Outside, Oliva had just grabbed Guevara and slammed him into the ground with all his might, which created a massive 10 by 20 hole in the ground and shook the entire prison. Unfortunately, this didn't stop Guevara, as he jumped back up and uppercut Oliva into the air, which he then grabbed a hold of and power drived him into the ground, doubling the size of the hole. Before Guevara could let go, Oliva Pac-Man his ass and tried to crush him. Oliva kept up the pressure but soon had to let go as Guevara reached up and nearly crushed his Adam's apple. As soon as he let go, he was met with a high kick to the face that flung him out of the hole.
Oliva jumped up and speareth Guevara as he jumped out of the hole, sending the right back to cell block 9 and almost through it until Oliva was kicked off of Guevara by an unknown man. Said kick felt like it was going to cut him in half and had enough strength to carve a trench into the floor. Both Baki and Oliva looked at this man that attacked Oliva. He had on a black trench coat with red clouds on it. It also had on black combat boots, and his face was completely hidden beside the giant yellow eyes and large pointy smile. Oliva instantly recognized this being as Black Zetsu. If it really was, then both him and Baki was going to die. But thankfully it turned to Guaveri and said, "That's enough. You've had your fun, now come on, we have work to do." Guaveri was sweating as he stood up. He then looked to Oliva and said, "Well, I guess our game is over for now, but I will be back to finish this." After that, Zetsu grabbed him and they both sunk into the ground. Oliva looked over at Baki and said, "Baki, we need to tell Naruto ASAP."
Chapter 8. Monk vs Ninja. Naruto was currently walking to Tokugawa's house as the short man had called him over to meet some people. While he wasn't overly happy about having to go to said place, it still wasn't the worst phone call he had this week. You see, last Wednesday he got a call from Oliva about who he thought was Black Zetsu apparently jued and masked up on of his inmates.
That was something Naruto was hoping wasn't true at all, but the fact Oliva had his memories, he probably would have mistaken Zetsu for anyone else. Then that leaves the question, how did he get a body powerful enough to outright overpower Oliva, who in all rights was basically the third strongest being on this planet? This question rattled around in his head for a couple of days, and even when he went to check on Jack's detoxing or when he was cooking for people in his restaurant. Even the up-and-coming tournament for Doppo's school couldn't get his thoughts off it. The only thing he could guess is he's using Madara's old body, as he does remember it falling with him into this world.
Naruto sighed as he got to Tokugawa's residence, and he wasn't surprised by the fact it was a massive house away from town and on top of a hill that let him see the Tokyo Dome at all times. He also wasn't surprised by the fact it had guard all over the place either. He smirked as he thought of it would be more fun to sneak into the place instead of checking in, so he did.
A few minutes earlier in the home, Tokugawa was currently sitting in the meeting room inside of his house. In front of him was 3 people of noteworthy states in the martial art world, as all 3 of them had gained the title of Kyo, a name that, while diminished over the years, was still a great honor to have. The first of which is one of the greatest fighter he ever had in his Underdome and 3rd place contestant in the Maxim tournament, Retsu Kyo. He was an average height Chinese man with long braided black hair and dark skin. He had on a white Chinese clothing. The next man was a man some have only heard of. He was basically the face for the Kaios order for the past 80 years, and even though he was 100 years old was still very much in shape, Ryu Kyo. He was a massive man that had on monk's robes. He was bald with a full white beard. But the most standout feature was the scar that ran around his face. The last man was the oldest person in the room and most likely the world. He was a true legend not just in his school of martial arts, but also throughout China. This was Kaku Kyo, the master of all Kyos. He was a somewhat short man and thin as a rail. His skin was more like a reptile's from the wrinkles. He had somewhat grown out white hair and had on traditional white Chinese clothing with sunglasses. "Mr. Tokugawa, are you 100% sure this boy, Naruto, actually beat that monster Yuchiro?" Kaku asked, finding it had to believe that any man or thing for that matter could actually beat him. For Tokugawa, he was actually getting really tired of this, as this would be the 3rd time today he explained it. You see, Retsu first shown up this morning asking this same damn thing. Then his master Ryu shown up a few hours after that, and finally Ryu's master shown up 30 minutes ago and now want the same answer. Despite all that, Tokugawa still had his manners, especially when it came to having people in front of him that could easily kill him. While I didn't personally see the fight, I have however seen Naruto fight with my own eyes, and I have seen Yuchiro fight before. The comparison is not even fair. Naruto is strong enough to fight 10 Yuchiros at once. Laughter was what Tokugawa's statement was met by. It was Ryu who was laughing. He then calmed down and said, "Surely you are joking. 10 Yuchiros would be enough to probably conquer the world. The only way to stop that would be to launch every nuke in the world and kill everyone." Tokugawa responded with, "I'm not joking one bit, as I don't think even if you hit Naruto with every nuke this world had at one would it kill him." It was Retsu that spoke next. "I have a hard time believing that. Regardless, I intend to find out when he gets here." As if on K they all heard, "When who gets here?" They all look around until they looked up and seen the man they have been waiting on hanging upside down from ceiling. He was holding on with his fingers by the supports. He then let go and landed in between them.
As the three gave Naruto a one over, both Retsu and Ryu was impressed. But Kaku was truly amazed, as he hadn't felt his presence at all and he could feel the amount of kai this man had in him. At that moment he was sure Tokugawa was straight out wrong, as 10 Yuchiros wouldn't even be a warm-up for this. God in front of them. Naruto scratched his head and said, "Sorry, but I had a lot of things to do today before I could come over here." He then looked them over. The youngest one was giving off a Neji vibes and tall one was giving off the same deal as Grandpa Hokage did. Finally, the smallest of the lot was almost like looking at another geezer sage and was most likely to most dangerous out of the three.
Tokugawa then got up and stood next to Naruto as everyone else got up as well. Then the sort then said, "Naruto, my boy, let me introduce you to the three greatest Kaio alive today. Retsu, the third runner-up in my last tournament. It actually took Baki to beat him."
Naruto was actually impressed, as he knew how strong Baki was, and if it took him to stop this guy then he had to be strong. Tokugawa then pointed to the next one, and this is Master Ryu. He is the head of his own group. Finally, this is Grand Master Kaku. He is the head of the entire order of all monks in China.
The tall guy didn't surprised. He seemed strong but not quite as strong as the last guy. But when Tokugawa got to the old man, it confirmed his thought. Naruto then bowed and said, "It's nice to meet you. I'm Naruto, a simple noodle shop owner." Ryu Kaio looked at the young man and said, "Yeah, a noodle shop owner that is apparently powerful enough to beat Yuchiro Hanma." Naruto looked at the much older man and said, "Well, I never said I was weak." Naruto then looked back and forth between the three of them and said, "Well, I'm not saying this is not a pleasure meeting you three, but why did you want to see me?" The blunt way Naruto spoke and look I uninterest actually rubbed Retsu the wrong way. "Why did we call you here? We have called you here so we can challenge you and to see how strong you really are."
Naruto looked back at Tokugawa, who just shrugged, and then back to the three of them and said, "No, now don't get me wrong, you three might be very strong, but I'm not really interested in fighting people for nothing." Retsu and Ryu both took that as an outright insult, but Kaku seen what the blonde actually mean and gained a bit of respect for the young man. Too bad Retsu didn't, as he went on a rant. "Not interested in fighting us. You should already know we are masters of a fighting style that been in practice for over 4,000 years. You should be honored to even be graced with all three of us showing up to meet you, let alone change you. Wait, you are over 4,000 years old?" Naruto screamed with his eyes popping nearly completely out of his head.
This made Retsu falter as he said, "Wah. No, I'm not 4,000 years old." Naruto then screamed back, "Then don't act like you invented Kung Fu, dumbass."
The old Grandmaster got a hell of a kick out of this, from the looks on Ryu's and Retsu's faces. While Retsu did bring the name Kaio Great Honer with his skills in Kung Fu, he also brought great shame to it as well for his ego. He decided to defuse the situation before got killed. "Okay, that's enough, Mr. Uzumaki, what would it take for you to fight a match today?" The former ninja looked at the old man and said, "It would take something of value to my restaurant. That's not just straight up money for me to fight anyone today." Kaku scratched his chin and asked Ryu, "Ryu, how many branches do we have in Japan and China?" The century-old giant looked at his master and said, "We have over 250 in China and 6 here in Japan, master." Kaku looked at Naruto and said, "What if we speed the name far and wide throughout China and Japan as we can, about the great Naruto Kaio, master of fighting and cooking? I'm sure that will drive up your sales and will get you tourists wanting to taste your food, but you will only gain that and the title of Kaio if you beat all three of us at once." Retsu and Ryu was shocked by this. For Kaku to give the title of Kaio to an outsider was unbelievable. Then again, if Naruto was able to beat all three of them at once, then he was more than worthy of the title. Naruto thought about it for a second. "Well, that could drive my business up, but then again, from the sounds of it, it will only help with tourists." Naruto looked at the old man and said, "Ah, why the hell not, but I got shit to do tonight, so let's get this over with right here and now." The three of them smirked as they let their ki fill up the room. Tokugawa for his part hightailed it to a corner of the room, as ki began to fill it. Naruto for his part was completely unfazed as the three Chaos ghost images became that of three Wester dragons. Naruto then let his ki loose and before the three dragons a Asura came forth. The first one to attack was Kaku as he rushed Naruto with a palm strike but was caught by Naruto who kicked him sending the Grandmaster flying. Then Retsu and Ryu rushed the blonde with Ryu going high and Retsu going low. Naruto used his momentum to start to spin sideways. As the two kicks passed by, Naruto grabbed a hold of Retsu and threw him at Ryu, which sent them at Kaku. Kaku jumped over the two and ran forth at Naruto with a spinning back kick, but the ninja jumped and delivered a kick of his own to the ancient master's head. Unfortunately for Naruto, the old man used his own strength against him and sent a new windmill kick to Naruto that knocked Naruto back.
As Naruto landed, he thought, "Wait, he just used my own power against me. Okay, no more hitting him then."
Naruto then had to find off a three-person assault as all three of them attacked at once, with Kaku aimed a punch at his head, Ryu aimed a right punch to his stomach and Retsu went for a swipe kick for Naruto's knees on the other side. Unfortunately for Retsu, he was a bit faster than the rest, so Naruto caught him and used him as a human shield for the other two. Naruto then sent a frog punch to his back knocking them all away. As Ryu and Kaku got up, they seen the combined power of all three of them was too much for Retsu to handle, as he was now out cold. Ryu and Kaku looked at one another and nodded. Ryu then grabbed Kaku and threw him at Naruto, the speed of which caught him off guard and sent Naruto flying through the house and straight into the tall walls around the house. Kaku then delivered a stomp on Naruto's stomach and jumped away as Ryu came running out of the house, followed shortly by Tokugawa. They all deemed Naruto amazingly got back up and cracked his neck. Naruto then looked at them and said, "Okay, that I didn't expect." Naruto then looked over at the small tree next to him. He then grabbed it and pulled it up, roots and all, which shocked the hell out of all three of them. Naruto then threw it at the two who had to dodge the damn thing, but unfortunately for Ryu, he never did see Naruto come in with a frog punch that knocked him out. Kaku looked at his old student who was planted into the wall after the punch Naruto gave him. He sighed and said, "Well, I expect this in all honesty. As when I first laid eyes on you, I could feel your overwhelming kai." Naruto looked puzzled by this and asked, "If that's true, then why challenge me at all?"
Kaku laughed as he answered, "Because I wanted to see it for myself. Ha ha ha."
Naruto actually started to think this old man had lost his damned mind, but he had no time to waste as Kaku rushed him again with another punch. This time, however, Naruto was tired of this fight, so he grabbed the punch and got Kaku into a strange hold. Kaku started to struggle with all his might, creating craters in the ground, but soon he passed out. Naruto then got up and heard clapping. Looking up, he seen Tokugawa going at it as he said to him, "Naruto, that was absolutely amazing. I don't even think Yuchiro could have done that." He then took a breath and told Tokugawa, "You know what? You are one sadistic midget." Tokugawa just shrugged as he knew it was true. Chapter 9. A pickle for a tournament. Jack Hanma was many things: a former drug addict. Yelp. One of the strongest people on the planet. Yelp. A man that was willing to kill himself for revenge. Yelp. A man that likes to bite any and everything to a point he even tried to eat bones with false teeth. Yelp. Out of all the things Jack was, one of the things he could never be was a man that understood how in the hell Naruto was able to get him to work for him. This was what Jack Hanma was thinking right now, as he was busting his ass off trying to fill every order that was coming in. Jack looked up and handed a bowl of ramen to a customer. Right now he, along with Ichigo, Katara and his current bane of his existence and boss Naruto, was at the first tournament of the year for Shinshinki. Naruto, on the other hand, was more occupied with what him and Tokugawa talked about last Wednesday, as it had him really troubled. Flashback. "Are you out of your goddamn mind?" Naruto exclaimed, as he was really wondering if Tokugawa was trying to get someone killed or just disfigured some people. The short old man actually took offense at Naruto's implication of himself. "Naruto, I promise you I have taken great care to make sure nothing will happen to any of the onlookers at the tournament." Naruto actually started to leak ki at Tokugawa's words. "Old man, you know damn well that's not fully what I'm talking about." No, it's the fact that damn caveman of yours is going to at least full disfigured someone. What do you want to see someone lose a arm or leg to the son of a bitch? Tokugawa took a step back, as he could tell Naruto was actually getting really pissed off at him. Come on Naruto, I doubt that will happen to anyone fighting Pickles, besides you will be right there in the same room, so if anything gets out of hand you can step up and stop him. Naruto let his ki rest, as he said, fine, but know this Tokugawa, if you keep playing these games you will get people killed. As you are dangling poison drugs in front of drug addicts. You will eventually get someone killed. Naruto then walked away. No, this will turn out bad. Flashback over. Naruto was in truth 100% ready for this stupid ass plan of both Tokugawa's and Doppo's to blow up. He might not want to kill Pickles, but if it came down to it he would. Naruto stopped his train of thought as he heard a familiar voice call out to him. Looking over, it was Doppo Orochi himself. Beside him was a Chinese man that looked to be in his early 20s. The young blonde walked up to the two and said, well, if it isn't the host of the tournament himself, Doppo Orochi, glad to see you again, Karate Gramps. At hearing that nickname, Doppo and the other man both chuckled. Doppo then said, good to see you too, kid. I wanted to introduce you to my son. Also, why is Jack working for you? Doppo finished with raising an eyebrow at the giant of the man.
Before Naruto could answer, Jack yelled out, good damn question. I'm wondering how he convinced me to this mess as well.
Naruto just looked back and then turned to the two once more. Naruto then said, I'm his life couch for getting off steroids. Also, he lives upstairs from my restaurant now. Anyway, name's Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto said as he extended his hand to Doppo's son.
Said man firmly gripped said hand and shook it. Katsumi Orochi. Also, I already know quite a bit about you, and some of the things I heard from my dad and Retsu is truly amazing. Did you really beat Retsu and two other Kaios at the same time? Naruto chuckled at that, as the last few weeks people have been asking about, as apparently Kaku had made good on his word about spreading his name and legion around. Yeah, I did. They put up one hell of a fight as well.
Both Orochi's sweat dropped at that. As beating just one Kaio was an amazing feat by itself, yet alone fighting the three strongest ones in the past 100 years, one of which that can fight the ogre Yuchiro Hanma himself, well, that was just straight out insane.
Katsumi just scratched the back of his head at that and said, yeah, well, I need to go and get ready for my match against the caveman. It was nice to meet you, Naruto. With that, him and Doppo walked off.
Naruto was at least somewhat glad to hear about that at least someone on Doppo's level was going to fight that monster, but he was still going to keep an eye on the match just in case. Some time later, Katsumi was now in the ring ready to fight the pickled caveman. Over the past couple of weeks he had been training with Kaku Kaio on a very secret technique. At first he couldn't use it without nearly breaking his hands and legs. Hell, he hate to think what would have happened if he tried to use it in a real fight before he mastered it. Most likely it would have ripped his arm or leg off of him, but now he was fully ready to use it today.
The announcer started with, today we have a very special treat for you all. Thanks to the Mr. Tokugawa coming together with our own Doppo Orochi, we have one last match for you today. In the blue corner is our own Katsumi, and in the red corner, you may have heard of him. A caveman that was found killing a dinosaur still alive in a salt deposit. Let's hear it for Pickles.
As soon as his name was called, the giant steel cage doors was opened up and the caveman came walking out. He stood 7 feet tall and had very long hair. His nails were more like close. He also had on a pair of pants. But all that paled to something else. Something Tokugawa was at a loss for, as he wasn't like this before he got here. Pickles' eyes and veins were pitch black.
The young martial arts was taken back by this, but nevertheless was ready for a fight. As the bell ringed, Katsumi charged the large man and delivered a kick to his face that sounded like a whip. But it only moved the caveman's head a bit. Katsumi then gave a few more hits with his arms and legs, each one harder than the last, but all seemed to barely even faze the feral man. After Katsumi was done, he jumped back and waited for a response. It was then everyone there heard a voice overhead say, Pickles, I think it's time for you to play. Like magic, the caveman came to life and disappeared, only to show back up with his claws slashing deep cuts into Katsumi and sending him into the bleachers. The young martial arts looked up and seen the caveman moving closer to him. But before Pickles could get any closer, he was met by a foot to his face that sent him flying. Looking at this new fighter, Katsumi seen it was Naruto, and shortly behind him was Jack.
Naruto looked on as Pickles got up, not even hurt by the attack, which surprised the former ninja as he put the same level of strength he did into that kick as he used against Yuchiro Hanma. Naruto then looked over at Jack, who was taking his shirt off, and said, "Jack, you take it up from here as I need to go and fight Zetsu." Jack just nodded, but before Naruto left he said, "Also Jack, do not hold anything back at all." With that, Naruto disappeared and Jack activate both his demon back and his tailed beast mark. Jack then started to walk forward and said as his footsteps was breaking the ground, "This is going to be fun."
With Naruto, currently the former ninja was jumped from one place to another looking for the piece of shit that's been messing with his family for hundreds of years. Naruto then seen the jackass over the ring at the very top of the building where no one could see him. At that moment Naruto lost it. He ran as fast and hard as he could before Zetsu knew it. A full-powered kick from Naruto had sent him flying halfway across the city. The impact from it shook the entire building, and when he landed it created an impact that shook the ground for miles.
Zetsu already knew who just kicked him, and in truth, while it did hurt, that wasn't why he was regretting not just stealing that caveman and running away. Now he had to fight this monster. Well, at least he had Madara's old body, that was strengthened by Hashirama's yang cells and a white Zetsu base.
Zetsu has to move quick as Naruto came in with a full strength punch that did far more damage than Zetsu's landing. Zetsu looked up and seen Naruto's yellow glowing eyes as he said, "Zetsu, you should have just stayed dead with that bitch for a mother of yours."
Back to the ring. Jack rushed Pickles and swung as hard as he could, sending the caveman out of the ring, through the stands and straight through the walls and out of the building and into the parking lot.
Pickles got up and turned to one of the cars nearby. He then proceeded to pick it up and used it as a club when Jack came outside. The last thing Jack was expecting was a car to come slamming down onto him, but what Pickles didn't expect was for said car to explode, which sent himself bouncing around like a pinball.
Jack for his part was glad the tailed beast mark was able to make him able to handle both the explosion and the heat from the fire, as he kicked it off of him. As he got up he seen Pickles had also gotten up as well. The two then changed each other like two animals.
Pickles tried to claw at Jack's back but made a crucial mistake as Jack bit two of his fingers off as he uppercut the caveman out of the parking lot and onto the roof. Jack then jumped up to the roof only to be met by Pickles' yad, to which Jack kicked him off and nearly off the roof. The two biting monsters looked at one another. Pickles' missing fingers was regrowing and the chunk that was bitten out of Jack was almost completely regenerated.
They both then heard a voice say, "Pickles, that's enough." As Zetsu shone back up with his clothes ripped apart, not too long after Naruto shone up as well. Zetsu then said, "Mark my words, Naruto Uzumaki, I will be back and I will destroy you." Zetsu and Pickles then sank into the roof just in time to dodge Naruto launching blades at them.
"Damn it!" Naruto screamed and then ran back inside while yelling, "Jack, come on, we need to check on Katsumi," to which Jack followed shortly behind. Back at the ring, as they got back they seen Doppo and Tokugawa around the down man. As they got next to him they seen the attack was worse than they originally thought. Katsumi's chest was ripped open and even was his ribcage. Tokugawa looked up at Naruto in shock as he said, "You were right, Naruto, this is all my fault." Naruto got down beside the down man and said, "No, it's not, this one is on me." Naruto then grabbed Katsumi's hand and started the process of giving a tailed beast mark. Doppo was going to ask what he was doing until he seen his son's cuts begin to close. Katsumi then opened his eyes to show the same golden ones Jack had earlier, but they then faded back to normal as he passed back out. Doppo looked at Naruto amazed and asked, "What did you just do?" Naruto extended his hand and said, "Would you like to find out?" Doppo grabbed it and he felt the power flow into him as the scars began to disappear and he even began to regrow his eye. But the most shocking was Naruto's own memories flashing before him.
The former ninja got back up and told Jack, "Jack, go check on Ichigo and Katara. Make sure they are okay." Naruto then began to talk with the two old men until the medic shone up and Jack left to do just that. Chapter 10. Gone Fishing. A living nightmare was what Naruto was now living in. It wasn't bad enough that he was probably stuck in this fucking world permanently, but now the bastard that caused his old home world to stay at war for the better part of 1,000 years, was now running rampant across this one now. Worse than that, he seemed to have the same ability as himself to imbue people with unreal levels of power, and it seems to be choosing the most dangerous people as possible to us.
Naruto sighed at that, as he knew for a fact he had no way of tracking Zetsu down. After all, hard to do that when you didn't have the money to travel that much or lacking the Sage Mode to fill for him. The only comfort Naruto had right now is it seemed Zetsu couldn't use Jetsus either and was stuck with his own natural abilities. All that being said, none of that had anything to do with what he was doing today. No, after week of having a psychotic midget calling him up constantly, or having some dude wanting to fight him, and let's not forget about having to help someone off drugs, today was his day. Which means just him, a cooler full of hard lemonade, a fishing pole, and all the time in the world.
Naruto looked up as he reached his destination. It was a man-made river used for irrigation for the nearby rice fields. Naruto could already see some of the old-timers nearby was already set up. So Naruto thought there was no time like the present. So he sat evening thing up and put some bait on his hook and casey it out, ready for a relaxing day.
After about an hour of Naruto catch a few small ones too small to keep, he seen a show overhead. Looking behind him, he seen a man that in all honesty could give Oliva a run for his money. He had a point tail, a button-up blue shirt, and some plain brown shorts, as well as some cheap flip-flops. Naruto didn't know why, but he looked oddly familiar.
The large man took the last remaining spot that was open, which was right downstream from himself. As the dude set up, he yelled at Naruto, who at this point went back to fishing. "Hey, how are the fish doing today?" To which Naruto looked over and said, "They're biting, but none of them are worth keeping." Naruto then heard the man say, "Damn it."
A couple more hours passed and Naruto actually caught a few good ones, but unfortunately he was running out of bait. Apparently the bucket of worms he bought this morning was more dirt than anything else. So Naruto got up and started to pack his stuff up to go and get some more. He stopped when he heard the same guy asked, "What's wrong? It looked like you were on a roll." Naruto turned to the man and said, "The dude at the bait shop screwed me over. There were barely any worms in the damn tub he sold me." The large man scratched his chin and yelled back, "Well, I don't have any worms, but I do have a spare thing of chicken livers you can use." At hearing this, Naruto ran to the man and the guy reached into his bag and handed them to Naruto. Now close up he could tell the guy was actually pretty old, possible around 80, and his hair was now for the most part gray. Naruto then asked the man as he pulled out his old frog wallet, "What do I owe you for these?" The man put a hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, "Don't worry about it. Just when we get done fishing, I know of a place we can go and cook them, and you can buy me a beer then." At this, Naruto thanked the man and got back to fishing.
As the day went on, Naruto caught a few more and even took some of his lemonade to the old guy, who said, "Thanks, but I can't actually drink those. The amount of acid and sugar that's in them, hell, let's just say it won't end well for me." To which Naruto said, "Okay," and went back to catching fish.
After a while, Naruto looked up and seen the sky starting to turn orange. He then looked over to see the old dude was about ready to leave. So Naruto got up and reeled in his life and throw what bait that was on it away in the water. Naruto then closed the bait, seeing it was about 1/4 full. He then grabbed his bucket full of fish and walked over to the guy. As he got closer, he seen the large man didn't have all that much luck, as his fishing bucket was for the most part empty. As Naruto came right up to the man, Naruto said, "Hey, thanks for the bait, it worked like a charm. Now I believe I owe you a beer."
The older man smiled and said, "I actually forgot all about that. Yeah, the place I was talking about is a little ways up the stream from here. They will actually take away fish for us and cook them for a cheap price." With that, the two walked a little ways away. The place was actually a little hidden behind some places. As they got to it, he seen that most of the old-timers that was fishing today was there to get their fish cooked for them. The much taller man then told Naruto, "If you're interested, they will also clean and bag them for you as well." This was actually an interesting idea, and in truth Naruto was surprised by this place, as he's been living here for over 2 years now and fishing at that same spot this whole time, but he never knew about this place. Naruto and the mystery man sat down at a table after they gave the fish to the cleaner and Naruto bought the guy his beer as Naruto still had a couple of lemonades left over and began to talk. So what do you do for a living? The older man asked Naruto as he cracked open his beer and took a drink from it. Naruto did the same and said, well, I actually run a restaurant that I promise will cook the best ramen you had ever had in your life. Naruto gave the man one of his cards and continued with, before that, however, I used to work on a fishing boat for about 2 years. How about yourself? The older man picked Naruto's card and said, well, I used to do a little bit of this and that, from mowing yards to putting tiles on roofs to even laying brick, but the only real thing I was even good at was fighting. Let's just say the only 2 ways of making money, and that is either having a good agent or doing fixed fights. Well, you can probably guess which one of those options I picked. Their food then got there and they continued to talk with Naruto asking, you ever feel bad about doing those fixed fights? The older man laughed at that and said, son, there are only 2 people who truly feel bad about that. Munch, those who are so full of themselves that think they are better off not doing them. Munch, and those who thinks they are letting people down by doing them. Drink, I however only had 2 regrets in life and it wasn't one of those. Naruto looked curiously at the older man and asked, really, and what was those 2 things if you don't mind me asking? The larger man just said as he started on another fish, I don't at all. One is getting involved in a war one had known nothing about, and in truth if I had I would have probably helped the people I fought, and the second was having a son. Trust me, kids are nothing but trouble and I should know as I now am raising my 8 enlargement grandkid and only 2 out of the 10 I got have any talent at fight, but I'm ashamed to say I never meet them. They then kelp up on their eating and talk as Naruto and the old guy trained stories and jokes to one another for the remainder of the meal. They actually kelp this up until they were the last 2 people still there. As they were finishing up and Naruto offered to pay, they heard a voice at the cash register say, put all the money in the bag now. Looking over, they seen 2 people with what looked like homemade shotguns at the cash register. One of them was coming to their table and yelling, okay fuckers, empty out your pockets now and hand over you cash if you don't want to die. Naruto took one last drink of his lemonade and then moved faster than the robber could see by slapping it across his head and disarming him. Before Naruto could turn his attention to the other one, he heard a loud boom. Looking up, he seen his drinking buddy had literally crashed the dude's head into the ground, that it was fully buried into it. Later on, after the cops came and thanked the 2-man, Naruto and the unknown man were walking in the night air, enjoying the cold breeze. Naruto looked at his companion and said, you know what, I don't think we ever trained names. Mine is Naruto Uzumaki. It's nice to meet you, Gramps. The older man took Naruto's outstretched hand with a grandfatherly smile and said, it's nice to meet you, Naruto. My name is Yuchiro Hanma.
At hearing that name, the air around Naruto started to heat up and his grip tightened, which surprised the older man as Naruto asked, okay, how are you related to him and when were you going to attack?
Yuchiro's sweat dropped as he thought, damn it, Yuchiro, what did you do this time? He then let go of Naruto's hand and upped them up in a surrender pose. He then said, hey, now I have no alternative plans here and I don't know what my jackass of a son did to you, but today was just about getting away from my grandkids.
Naruto stopped and looked shocked by this and thought, so this was the father of Yuchiro Tokugawa was telling me about. He then realized something. Wait, you really don't know about me beating Yuchiro? The older man looked confused until Naruto threw a punch at the revere and it literally not just split it but also pushed the water back up the revere. This didn't just surprise Yuchiro. No, this both outright shocked and amazed him to see someone so powerful. Yuchiro then asked, wow, so what did my son do to bring on your wrath? Naruto looked on at the older man and said, he assaulted one of my employees named Katara. She still has the scar from when he hit her. Naruto was actually trying really hard to hold back his anger at the monster.
The older man tightened his fist at hearing that. He knew his son was a true piece of shit that didn't deserve to be in this world, and in truth if he was his son he would have killed him long ago for so many of the things he had done to people. Yuchiro bowed deeply and said, I am truly sorry for what my son has done. Naruto put a hand on the man's shoulder and said, hey, it's not you that needs to apologize, besides I already took my pound of flesh out of him, Tell you what, if you really are sorry, then come by the shop and buy a couple of boxes. You can't even meet one of your grandkids as he works for me there.
With that, Yuchiro agreed, and the two parted ways as friends that, unknown to both of them, will come in handy later on.
Chapter 11. Flip-flop. Naruto rolled over to the sound of his alarm going off, which soon found out how hard Naruto could slam his fist down on it. After which Naruto got up holding his head. He remembered getting home at midnight last night after him and Yuchiro had parted ways. The former ninja then grabbed his head as it was killing him, not too surprising as he drank 56 cans of hard lemonade, not to mention the few beers last night. Naruto just thought to himself, I wonder how the old guy is doing this morning. At Yuchiro's house, the massive man woke up to the usual screaming and arguing of his grandkids. Until he yelled out, "Hey, shut the fuck up in there or I'm going to spank all your asses red." He then laid back down and thought, fuck, I really shouldn't have drank last night. I can't imagine how the kid is feeling right now.
Back with Naruto. Naruto made his way downstairs after getting ready for the day. As he got to the kitchen, he seen Jack cutting up the vegetables for the soup. He also seen Katara and Ichigo in the dining room cleaning and refilling the napkin dispensers. Morning, Naruto said as he passed Jack.
The pit fighter looked over at his boss and said, I'm surprised to see you up. When you got home last night I could smell you all the way in my room. By the way, how was your day yesterday? Did you catch anything?
As Naruto got out the meat he had seasoned yesterday and was going to take that to the oven that he seen was already preheated, he said, yeah, caught a few. Ate most of them last night though. By the way, meet your grandfather yesterday. Jack's head shot up at that last part. He looked at Naruto and asked, meet my what? Naruto looked back at the Canadian and said, yeah, your grandfather Yuchiro Hanma. I meet him yesterday fishing by the river. Really nice guy by the way. Actually said he would come by sometime to eat and meet you. Hopefully Baki is around then as well. Jack was completely dumbfounded by that, but he knew Naruto, and one thing Naruto wasn't was a liar. Unless he was on a mission, then all bets were off. So Jack just went back to work.
A few hours later, standing outside the small noodle shop was three individuals, two of which was Izo, the jack of all trades and master of none, and Gaia, the master of environment combat and soldier for fortune. The two were oddly dressed for themselves as they were covered head to toe in some kind of cloak. It this really where that young whippersnapper is? When Izo said yes, the man up front said, Hugh, it's odd to see a man of such talents working a day job like this, but at least that means he's not lazy. Ha ha ha. They then walked into the shop. Inside, the brother-sister duo were currently busting their asses trying to keep up with the customers. In truth, it amazed both of them just how much Naruto was able to expand the place in such a short amount of time. Matter of fact, quite often they had people lined up out the doors waiting to get in. Katara stopped as the elderly man walked up to the counter and asked her, "Excuse me, young lady, but may I speak to the owner? Tell him it a friend of Tokugawa's, Goki Shibukawa." She looked him over. He was actually shorter than herself. He had on a robe with sandals with socks. He had a pair of thick glasses and a straight-top haircut.
Katara just said, yes sir, and went on to the back to retrieve Naruto. The short man just looked around and waited until the owner came out.
In the kitchen, Naruto and Jack stopped what they were doing as Katara told Naruto the message. To which Naruto thought the name over as he said, Shibukawa, Shibukawa. Wait, I think I remember Doppo telling me about a man by that name.
Jack then cut in, I wouldn't doubt that, as they fought each other in that big tournament Tokugawa was hosting.
Naruto and Katara looked over at the monster of a man, then Naruto asked, really, then what happened? Naruto said, wanting to know. Jack looked to his boss and said, Doppo lost, then he lost to me and I lost to my brother. Jack then finished up, while Naruto made a face and started to walk out of the kitchen.
Dining room. Shibukawa was still looking around and could tell this place had good food as it was jam-packed in here, despite the fact there were about 5 other places that served the same thing this place did. It actually started to make him a little hungry, in fact. Shibukawa, Izo and Gaia all turned to the door as Naruto came walking out. Shibukawa was a little underwhelmed as Naruto didn't look like a fighter, but that was as far as his thoughts got as Naruto stumbled back. Shibukawa then looked down to Naruto's stomach and seen 2 tranquilizer darts there. He then heard from Izo, "Let's see you survive 2 darts full of poison dart frog toxin."
The old man then turned around and seen his old friend and Gaia unrobed. To Shibukawa it was like looking at a horror movie monsters. Both their eyes and veins were pitch black.
Naruto pulled the darts out and yelled, "Jack code red." Before the 2 could do anything, Jack Hanma came running out with a large piece of metal covering him from the shots Izo and Gaia launched at him. When Jack got to them, he bashed them with all the might his demon back and tailed beast mark could give him. Which the 2 actually found themselves being smashed though the glass and doors, with Jack still hot on their tails. Shibukawa ran over to Naruto and said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know them 2 were going to do that. Hell, I don't know why they did that," he said, not knowing what to actually do, as from what he can remember about those frogs, Naruto should have been dead by now.
The former ninja looked at the old man and said, "If you want to make it up to me, then here and go help Jack," Naruto said as he raised his hand for a fist bump.
Shibukawa for his part did get what Naruto meant by take this, but he put his fist to Naruto's anyway. As soon as he made contact, what was going on became very clear, and it actually pissed the old martial arts off a lot to think that thing was controlling his friend. Shibukawa then got up with his false eye popping out, showing he was regrowing it, then ran out the door as Naruto began to steam up the room from his healing factor kicking in.
Outside the shop, Jack was in truth having a hell of a time trying to beat the 2 weapon masters, his shield now long discarded as it was sliced in 2 by Gaia's knife, but thankfully it served its purpose of blocking the toxic shots. Izo looked over at the giant and in truth was impressed. For a man of Jack's size, he was quite agile. When Zetsu told them of this plan and said Jack was no longer using steroids, both him and Gaia thought beating him would be easy. But it turned out the reason Jack stopped using them was to awaken his Hanma blood. Add that with the power Naruto gave him, well, let's just say if they were still normal, Jack would have killed them by now. Gaia smirked and said, "Come on Jack, do you really think you can beat both of us at once? After all, your boss is now down for the count and you are outnumbered and outgunned here, just give up and we'll make it painless as possible." Before Jack could say anything, they all heard, "Outgunned maybe, but outnumbered I think not." Shibukawa then shone up in a blur. He had to take a second to steady himself as the amount of power he gained was a little more than he could handle right now. Izo looked at his old friend with sad eyes as he said, "Oh Goki, what have you done now? We are going to have to kill you now." The aged master of the defense looked at the shell of his friend and said, "I don't know who you are, but I know for a fact whatever that monster Zetsu did, you are not Izo anymore, so I have no regrets putting you down. Jack, Izo is mine." The giant agreed as they both charged the posed martial arts. Jack Hanma vs Gaia. Gaia went out and tried to let out his sonic scream, but Jack was too fast for him, as he closed the distance in no time, then hit Gaia in the solar plex, knocking Gaia wind out and him across the street hole, bouncing off cars till he landed on a nearby roof. Jack then ran forward and jumped straight from the ground onto the 3-store building. As he did so, he had to dodge a throwing knife that was aimed for his head. Unfortunately, he wasn't fast enough and got cut across his face. Gaia's smirk then disappeared as he seen it rapidly healed up. Gaia then pulled out more knives and started to throw them. The giant just covered up with his elongated arms and legs and waited till Gaia ran out of knives. Which didn't take long as Gaia seemed to be in a frenzy to kill him. Jack then stood up and flexed, popping all the knives out of him. As the stab marks healed, Jack asked, "Is that it, or do you have anything else to use instead of fighting like a man?" This actually pissed the mercenary off as he yelled, "Try eating this bitch." He then pulled out a 1911 and started to fire off, but unfortunately he hadn't realized yet that the speed both him and Jack can move and react are way faster than any bullet that can be fired. So Jack ran forward, dodge every shot with ease, and when he got to Gaia, he thought he would put his new regrown teeth to use by biting the gun in half. Gaia for his part was more than a little freaked out as he just seen Jack literally eat his gun. He then seen Jack give him the hardest left punch in his life, as it knocked him from the roof all the way into the basement of the thankfully empty building. Jack then jumped down, but when he landed there was sight of Gaia. To the point he guessed that either he ran off or Zetsu came and got him. So he left to go check on Shibukawa and then Naruto. Shibukawa vs Izo. They just seen Jack launch Gaia across the street. Izo for his part knew he could actually match Goki in skill, just like he knew Gaia couldn't beat Jack in a fair fight. They both just had to hope that their weapons could make up the difference and Naruto was either dead or wouldn't be getting back up anytime soon. With that though process, Izo pulled out a weight attached to a rope and began spinning it. The onlookers actually started to run away as they seen just how much rope he had and how fast it was moving. It was actually moved so fast it was invisible to them, and the wind coming of it was like standing right in front of an industrial fan, even if they were 50 feet away. Shibukawa the ducked as Izo slingshot it off a street light. He then had to jump from it, bounced off the street which created a large hole. Izo then caught it and throw it like a baseball as the older man. Which Goki dodged to the left and seen it sling back around the pole into Izo. Izo then started spinning it again as Shibukawa though, I got to get that damn thing away from him. Goki then grabbed a few rocks and threw a couple of them at Izo. Izo swatted them away and seen the old man was rushing him. He launched it at Shibukawa but had to dodge one last rock, which threw off his attack. Goki then took advantage and grabbed the rope after the weight passed by.
At seeing this, Izo pulled out his short sword and tried to cut his enemy. Unfortunate for him, Shibukawa was all ready to close as he grabbed Izo's arm then tossed him back into Naruto's shop.
Izo then got up and said, "If you think a simple throw will beat me, you must be dreaming." But then he heard something from behind him that made a chill run down his spine. Then let me give it a try. He then felt a punch so powerful that it broke every bone in his back and he found himself crashing through the abandoned building across the street, almost hitting Jack in the process. Both Shibukawa and Jack looked at the restaurant as Naruto came walking out looking extremely pissed off. Before Jack knew it, Naruto was behind him looking for Izo, but he seemed to be gone, which Naruto then yelled, "Fuck, he's gone. Jack, where is the other asshole?" Jack jumped as he didn't see Naruto get past him and then said, "He got away just like Izo did. I think Zetsu is around here somewhere."
Naruto looked at Jack and sighed, then walked back to Shibukawa and asked, "Now then, what did you want?" The aged master just responded with, "I did want to challenge you, but now not really. Can I get a number 5 instead?"
Naruto just hanging his head as he yelled at Ichigo to go get the spare window he has around back, as he went back to work, and Jack went upstairs with Katara to go get his tools so they can replace it. As Naruto thought something like this was going to happen again. Chapter 12. Criminal. One Mitsunari Tokugawa was not having a good week at all. Last Saturday he helped his old friend Doppo by having Pickles fight his boy Katsumi, which turned into a bust thanks to that thing called Zetsu possession Pickles and nearly killed Katsumi. Then the Monday after that, a man he thought was dead, Yuchiro Hanma, shown up asking questions. Someone who he personally can't stand, as on more than one account he found out about him setting up fights so he can make money from losing. Hell, if it wasn't for Doppo and ironically Yuchiro's own son Yuhiro rating on him, he would have never knew. Worse than that, Shibukawa then shown up Tuesday telling him that him and Jack had to fight off both Izo and Gaia as they nearly killed Naruto. Worst part is it turned out that fucking asshole Zetsu was in behind it, and now no one knows where the two are now. Wednesday, Baki finally shown back up from the States, as apparently the Black Pentagon had lost 90% of their security guards thanks to some guy named Jun Guevara and was stuck over there with Oliva having to be guards, so he couldn't even fight that night.
Thursday he had a physical, which includes a prostate exam. Yeah, the less he talked about that the better.
Now Friday came around, had he was getting the worst news yet. Or more like a nightmare, as what happened last time will always haunt him. Tokugawa looked at his bodyguard and asked, "Okay, tell me one finale time what actually happened and how it happened." Said man was a tall man wearing a three-pieced suit with sunglasses. This was Natsuyin. He had been a bodyguard for Tokugawa almost 30 years now, and in that he had actually failed to protect his boss 20 times. Every single time was because a B-class fighter or up, so he had always been worried about getting fired from his job. Natsu was sweating as he answered, "Yes sir, as of this morning everyone of the death row inmate that was here almost a year ago now is free and apparently much stronger than they were before."
Tokugawa took a puff of his pipe and he continued to listen.
At 8 a.m. on Monday, one convict known as Speck awake in a hospital located in Germany which he was moved to 2 months ago. He then proceeded to slaughter everyone there, which includes 56 fellow patients, 18 doctors and nurses, 10 police officers. Along with the 3 snipers that was put around the building to kill him if he ever woke up and tried this. The only thing he left was something he wrought: Zetsu is coming.
That wasn't good by any means, especially if the pickles disaster was anything to go by.
We then have one Sikorsky, who was being held in what was called the Hell Mine. A jail that used to be the deepest mine ever made. So deep in fact that the average temperature in the deepest parts can reach upwards of 110 degrees Fahrenheit. At 7:26 p.m. on Tuesday he broke out of the place by killing over 230 people, which includes inmates, the guards and even military personnel. Just like before, he had Zetsu is coming on the walls.
Okay, things are definitely worse than before. Even Yuchiro would have a hard time getting out of that place by head-on killing everyone without using stealth of any kind.
Next is one Hector Doyle, who was being held in a off-the-books facility in Ireland that was apparently very run down and is known for its problem of the convicts dying of unsanitary conditions. At 5 a.m. Wednesday he broke free. Thankfully he didn't kill anyone, but to eyewitness account, he apparently has regained his sight and hearing. Again he had the same message on the walls.
Well, at least no one got hurt, but this leaves the question, why didn't he kill everyone like the others did?
Then we have Kaio Dorian. I'm sorry, but this is the worst. At 4 p.m. yesterday the monks that was taking care of him found Dorian fully sound of mind, which he then proceeded to kill over 500 monks and ending with him killing Grand Kaio Kaku and Kaio Ryu. Also currently Kaio Retsu is on his way here from America, as he had a boxing match there with one Iron Michaels.
Tokugawa actually lost grip of his pipe from this. This was a feat even Yuchiro would even try. Sure, Yuchiro is without a doubt stronger than anyone in the Kaio order, but to fight so many and finish off 2 of the greatest martial arts in the world. No, even Yuchiro would have lost. Natsu looked up at his boss and said, "Boss, as horrible as that is, it's not actually the most important right now." At that, Tokugawa gave his longtime employee a questioning look, to which Natsu continued, "Today, about 20 minutes ago, we got information that Alexander Gallon, or as he's better known as Andrianov Zargan, left the mental health facility that you signed him up at. He had the same markings as Pickles had, and when someone asked where he was going, he said he was coming here, sir." At hearing this, Tokugawa jumped up and screamed, "What, you didn't think that was important enough to say first? Go call Naruto right now and get his ass over here, along with the others that fight, all of them right fucking now." Natsu for his part was a little shocked by the outburst, but soon snapped out of it as he read to the phone and grabbed Tokugawa's personal note box that was filled with every fighter's phone number that has or anyway been connected to the Underdome and started to call them up. Hour and a half later, Baki walked up to Tokugawa's with his girlfriend Kozu Matsumoto, from what Tokugawa's personal bodyguard, a man he has known ever since he started fighting in the Underdome. He said the convicts were heading back to Japan. He was mostly worried about Kozu, after all last time Sikorsky kidnapped her. Something of which he wouldn't let happen again no matter what.
The 2 lovers stopped as a taxi pulled up and they seen, oddly enough, Baki's older half-brother Jack, and Naruto came out of the back of it with Naruto saying, "I swear if this isn't the most important, like his life being in danger." Jack just sweat dropped at his employers ranting. "Yeah, Jack, why are you coming out of the same cab as Naruto?" Baki asked, actually startled by both seeing the monster who beat both him and his father and seeing his long-lost half-brother being with said monster. What's more, both of them had on the same t-shirt with Naruto's restaurant name on them. The 2 blondes looked over to the younger fighter. "Baki," the 2 said in at the same time. The 2 looked at each other and Naruto continued with, "I helped your brother get off of the juice." As Naruto was saying this, he heard from Jack, "Yeah, by kidnapping me." Ignoring that, Naruto finished, "Now he works with me in the kitchen." Also, who this? Kozu looked a little taken back as she just then remembered where she heard Naruto's name before. Wait, Naruto. This is the man that beat Baki's father, that giant Oliva, and took Baki's title as champion. But looks nothing like a fighter like dad was, or Baki. She then Baki say, "Oh right, this is my girlfriend Kozu." She then seen Naruto reach out with a handshake as he said, "Nice to meet you." name's Naruto Uzumaki. She shook it, then the four of them walked in.
Inside Tokugawa's living room was gathered what was probably the greatest fighters in the world, from strongest to weakest right now. Naruto Uzumaki, Jack Hanma, Katsumi Orochi, Goki Shibukawa, Doppo Orochi, Baki Hanma, Retsu Kaio and finally Kaoru Hanayama.
The 9 of them along with Baki's girlfriend were watching Naruto, who is outside ripping actual trees up and tearing them up with his own bare hands, after they all got the full story of what was going on. Kozu looked at everyone and asked, shouldn't someone go out there and stop him before he completely destroys Mr. Tokugawa's yard? Shibukawa answered the young girl. You can be my guess, young lady. If anyone else goes out there, Naruto might send them to the moon. Kozu was a little freaked out as even Baki didn't seem like he wanted to go out there, but Shibukawa then continued with, while this is bad, something is bothering me a lot. Why in the hell isn't Ryoko Yanagi a part of them? If Zetsu wanted a strong fighter, Yanagi would have been a much better choice than Alexander. While the rest of them was wondering this, Tokugawa actually knew the answer and said, that's because he broke out of jail months ago. If we are lucky, he never going to see him again.
Baki looked at everyone and asked, I know I might sound clueless right now, but who in the hell is Zetsu? Retsu jumped up and screamed, it doesn't matter who he is. If he had anything to do with Master Kaku and Ryu's death, then him going to kill him, and I'm done wasting my time here.
Before Retsu could move an inch, he had to stop in his tracks as a knife flew by. Looking to where it came from, he seen a still pissed off Naruto with his arms stretched out. Naruto then said, you're not going anywhere, unless you want to be killed before you get revenge. Like it or not, as of right now you, Baki and Hanayama are completely unable to fight any of them at all. Before the monk could reply, they all heard fighting and then Natsu flying across the room. They all jumped up ready for a fight as Naruto basically teleported in front of them all as he was ready for a fight, but Naruto was shocked by what he seen. Standing there was Alexander, but he wasn't what they was expecting. He was definitely infected by Zetsu, but only one of his eyes was black and most of his veins was mostly normal. Alexander stumbled into the room and seeing Tokugawa standing there, he fell forward. Landing on his knees, he weakly said as he was fighting off the demon that was in him. Mitsunari Tokugawa, please help me. I need to find someone by the name of Naruto Uzumaki to get rid of his evil. Right after which he passed out from the strain of fighting off Zetsu. They all look at each other, and with that Naruto knew they were in for one hell of a fight. The end. Thank you for watching, guys.